Namaskar to our beloved Guruji, Pandit A. Kanan. As usual, I have our board members, Shatarupa Ghosh, one of my senior students, and we also have Dr. Imtiaz Ahmed with us. Hello Shatarupa, hello Imtiaz da, Namaskar.
Hello, Namaskar.
Ustad Dharambir Singh ji with his son. Namaskar Dharambir ji.
Namaskar, namaskar.
Kaviraj, Namaskar.
Namaskar.
Thank you for joining us here today. We are maintaining Guru Shishya Parampara. So it would be lovely to have a Guru Vandana from you, Kaviraj, if you could share something for us.
Yeah.
Guru Brahma Guru Vishnu Guru Devo Maheshwara Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Adgure Namaha Satgure Namaha Sri Gurudeva Namaha.
Lovely. What a beautiful start of the show. Dharambir ji, we would like to know from you first about your Guru. Please tell us.
Yeah, first, can I just take this opportunity to remember your Guruji, Kanan Sahab, because I was very fortunate that during one trip of ours to Calcutta, we were taken by a dear friend of ours, Jayashri, who was their student, to meet them. And what a great blessing it was to see both him and his wife Malvika ji there. So we feel very blessed that this opportunity has happened because of that some beautiful link and vibration we got from such a great person, particularly for their contribution to music. And Calcutta, I mean, I was just looking the kind of work and the organizations they set up. And I think that's the greatness of people who leave behind a legacy with students and the goodwill. So I feel very happy to be being part of this venture and remembering on the centenary of Kanan Sahab. I'm so happy that you've brought us here.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah.
It's so much to share, so much to talk about our Guru. So I thought, what can be the better way of celebrating Guruji's centenary while we are, everybody is under lockdown and we can't even go out and do something properly. So at least try this way to pay our tribute.
Absolutely. The lockdown, on one hand, seems to be quite a difficult one, but if you are in love with music and riyaz and your sadhana, it's a great opportunity as well to use that time. And this is where, in the context of troubles, music is quite a savior. And this is where I feel like that the message I'd like to convey today is in that context, and to see that what the Guru Shishya model of learning and teaching is about.
Absolutely.
There are very pertinent questions whether this system is still okay for the changing of times. And I feel that we can resonate because we've traveled into another country where this model is not the way music is taught. But interestingly, what is it that has worked for us in spite of the challenges which are there because of the change in mindset. So I think in context of first looking at the model which we use the musical learning in the whole Indian subcontinent, the more I have matured and I can recollect from all different instances, because I was lucky to have had the opportunity to teach music at the primary level, school level, college level, university level, and even postgrad level in the West. And my upbringing happened not quite in that manner, because I left my house when I was only 15 to go and move into another city in pursuit of learning sitar. First from my Ustad ji's senior student, Pandit Narinder Narula ji, in a place called Patiala in Punjab. And before that, I was learning in my own town in Amritsar from Professor Sitaram. So a great thank you for me, for them to have given me a start. And it was a lot later than, with the blessings of the Namdhari Sadguru Jagjit Singh ji, who was a great patron of music, and he particularly loved taking on younger aspirants and introducing them to the big ustads to become their shagirats. And so my journey happened because of their efforts and blessings when I ended up in my ustad's house in 1976, in Dehradun, where he was residing then. And the gathering was a beautiful gathering where Sadhguruji and some of his disciples and Ustadji's family were there in the room. And, he started me off with the basic sargam and just asking me to move my fingers in a very coordinated manner, because I was probably all over the place. So that was like, the first lesson as a mark. At that time, the ceremony was done in the Sikh tradition manner of doing a prayer and an ardas. And Ustadji was quite okay with that for a little while, until he kind of observed my enthusiasm. And then suddenly one day said, "Look, don't feel bad. It's not that I don't accept your way of sort of doing that, but now that I feel that we should also do a Gandabandi, which was the traditional ceremony." And that was for me again a very fortunate kind of a time in Bombay. My Ustadji organized it, and at the just opened, and Menon Sab was the director then. And the guests which came to that ceremony included Ustad Salamat Khan Sahab from Pakistan, and many of the top gharanedar musicians from Bombay. And Ustadji, of course, did the whole ceremony in saying prayers in the way they do it in a Islamic way, and then tied a red gandaband on my wrist. And then I played Yaman. And I remember by that time, because I was that I had started to sound like that Gharana's style. which was quite natural when you are listening. And particularly, I must say, such a gratitude for my Khalifa, Ustad Shujat Khan, who was with me at school. He's 2 years younger to me. Say, "Jaake riyaz karo," you're wasting. And then we would sit down, and Shujat would, do things. And teaching, and his enthusiasm to teach wasn't great. But he was a person who was not into teaching. And so they would really try and test me out on that. And I said, he was a contagious person. Just being around with him,
Absolutely.
listening to his stories, and he was so full of music. His conversations were always mostly about music, about musicians, and different things. And to just be in that environment, the injection which I got has served me all my life. And the love for that music, and you I'm sure you are a musician, you'll appreciate that the job of a guru and ustad is a lifelong. And even when they are not there,
No
the ambience, the vibration, and that memories are there.
Absolutely.
And half of the time, what they're trying to tell us, then we don't understand, because my musicianship level was so low, and these people were talking at a totally another level, and you can imagine that half of the things were just going top of my head. So it was only lot later, or even now, that the penny drops, and you say, "Oh, that's what he was trying to say," because now you're beginning, so in a new light. So it's the things remain fresh in a very different way.
Absolutely. Dharambir, we have so much to hear from you. I'm so eager to know your experience, your journey. We have Kamal Virji here with us, Girish Jeram, we have Esher Singh, Joe Dolly, Tina Vidhi, Anita Mistry. Everybody is saying, Siddharth Krishna, everybody is saying namaste to you. And I'm sure, not only me, I'm sure every single person who's watching this, they would like to hear your music now. Then we'll move into the talking. And then, of course, we have Kaviraj. I'm very fond of his singing. Such a wonderful voice, Kaviraj. So we have lot to listen to you as well today.
Can I just put the context of what we're going to play, because this platform isn't really to show a performance in that sense, but I think a remembrance of our gurus and what we carry. My Ustad is thinking, and his total imagination of music was based on vocal music. He thought his musical thinking was through vocal music.
Yes.
So even to the extent that when he touched the mizrab on the string, he was trying to see how do I get the Agra style of voice throw through my stroke. Or how do I get that bit of nasalness? Because some musicians of his time were singing a little bit nasal, and some were singing open throat, the Patiala guys and the musicians. So he would experiment to say, okay, if I hit my mizrab at this angle, it's going to make a nasally sound.
Right.
So that's what will produce that kind of sort of effect. So even what we scientifically talk about harmonics and overtones and all that, he was even judging that from the texture of the vocalists of the time. So that was very interesting. And so compositions, he made a lot of vocal compositions which we cherish, and I think that's probably singing that or playing that probably is the best thing to remember the spirit of which is being left in that composition, because I think that's what the best thing is. And he wrote a beautiful composition in Rag Bihag. And the Bihag is where you find that he used to explain that the Bihag's approach could be so different. Same rag, but there were 3 or different approaches to to this rag. So you will find that this particular bandish, the approach to bihag is more from the root of kalyan.
Okay.
Yeah. So you will see that technically, theoretically, the aro avro would be nisa gama pa nisa, but here there is rega mapa going, and things are happening. But still, the spirit of the rag stays. And the other thing is, in this composition, it's talking about again the teacher and the guru. But this time it's saying
तुम्हारे
रूप हम जाने पहचाने.
अच्छा, lovely.
So एक रूप में नहीं, नाना रूप में आए तुम हमें समझाने. So different times you come in different guises, in different bodies to give us direction. So what a beautiful,
composition.
And it's I think it's got a beautiful ambience. Suni,
Lovely.
तुम्हारे रूप हम जाने पहचाने, तुम्हारे रूप हम जाने पहचाने, कहीं नहीं रूप है तुम्हारे, रूप नाना रूप में आए हो समझाने, तुम्हारे रूप हम जाने पहचाने. तुम्हारे रूप हम जाने अनाथ के बेअनाथ तुम्हीं हो, अनाथ के बेअनाथ तुम्हीं हो, अनाथ के बेअनाथ तुम्हीं हो, आवन गवन किया छोड़ के हम सब आए आए तुमको मनाने तुम्हारे रूप हम जाने पहचाने तुम्हारे रूप हम जाने पहचाने तुम्हारे रूप हम जाने पहचाने
Wow.
What
What
a
a
beautiful
lovely-
rendition! What a beautiful
Isn't
rendition!
it? Yes.
Yeah, we are. I can see the comments in Facebook. Everybody is mesmerized by the beautiful presentation there.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
Very nice, Dharambir. I mean, I don't know whether you know that your Guru Bhai is coming in this program in the
Yeah.
day after tomorrow. So we are
Absolutely.
so delighted to have two disciples of Vilat Kansapji.
I think,
and it's an honor for Kalakar to.
yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say that, to see my Khalifa, and the again, you brought Shujat Bhai into the picture. I think if I can share that what was we in this model, when you go and leave your house and whatever and go and live with your Ustad Guru, you are an outsider. There is a family circle and you're an outsider, and the catching up which outsiders have to do was something which was hitting me particularly, and some other shagirds in the household. And Shujat Bhai, even at the age of 3 or 6, was doing amazing things on the sitar, and sitar was like a toy. He would, and like he does even today, he will sing and he will play. He was such a jolly person that even in those days, at such a young age, he would just pick up any song and play all the beautiful nuances in that and all. So the point I'm making is that their kids, their families are so musical. And my dad used to say that. He says that a child born in our families, if they can't sing the sa and the ma and the pa in tune, then something is not right, So they by the age of 12, 13, Shujat Bhai and Nishat Khan, Ustad Imrul Khan Saab's son, gave a duet performance in Harballab. They were only 12, 13-year-old, with Pandit Shamta Prasad ji on the tabla. And you know what these boys played then as a beautiful jugalbandi. After that, though, it was not possible for them to play together. But because that age is such a... and the complementary phrasings and the way they interacted and playing and the level of music they were playing, musically, and the tayari and everything, that everything was in them by that age.
Yes.
And the people like us who are outsiders. So can you just see that, what that kind of game was? So, and I noticed that in my Ustad's case, all he kept looking was watching how a shagird was developing, if their musicality ear was coming, the lay was working, and they were doing riyaz, because we could see that how dedicated they were. And the teaching and the guidance happened because the shagird called for it. You see, that was, I'm talking my personal experience, and the model is very different in some other things. I've seen the Dagar family and their teaching model, and the ashrams they built, and how regimental the teaching is done, and done. But in our case, it was so fluid. And my Ustad sometimes used to say that, I expect that all my recordings, you guys digest that first. You know, the point was that, do I have to sit down and teach you a gut when I've recorded it? You know, you go and pick it up.
Go
So,
and
you know,
listen to it.
it sounded pretty harsh because we didn't have the capacity to pick it up. You know, our orals were not there and all. But again, you can view this kind of thing from both sides to see if it is a positive thing to push a student to look at working out the notation of the music, which is oral training, or to look at it from someone who's trying to hold back the knowledge.
Yeah.
So I think that this kind of controversy has been there. But my experience has been, you know, greatly thankful that we were allowed to be in the company. We were allowed to go on tour to concerts up and down the country, sit right back behind the stage with the tanpura, and the experience we would gather, the audience reaction we would see, and how Ustadji handled different situations was everything was learning. Everything was part of that. So you know, so the pedestal of the ear, what you know he had taken us to was so high that whenever he mentioned a musician he was inspired, they were like people of very different world, and what they sang and how they sang, he would sometimes tell us what was so special about
Yeah.
them.
Moving on from
Dharambir,
you, where you left last time, uh, you know, you came to UK, and obviously you set up few very, you know, influential musical institutions such as Sitar Society and SA UK.
Yeah.
And in terms of, obviously, as we were telling earlier, that the pattern of Guru Shishya Parampara is obviously different in different contexts, you know, in India versus here in UK. Please let us know about your experience when you actually went through this process of with these institutions and how it sort of evolved.
so before that, I have got a question, Dharimbirji.
Yeah,
Now,
sure.
you know, like you were talking about that you have stayed with your guru, and there were many other students living with you at the same time, right?
Yes.
Because my experience is different. Because when I stayed with my guru, I was the only student who was learning under Malvika ji. So
Yes.
obviously, I was her full attention was me. कि मतलब
Sure.
सुबह उठो रियाज करो, ये क्यों नहीं हुआ, ठीक तरह से खाना क्यों नहीं खा रहे हो, अभी कहाँ जा रहे हो, किसी से अभी मिलना नहीं, अभी बैठना है. तो her full attention was on me. But प्लीज टेल अस दैट आप तो उनके घर पे कई सारे और लोग थे, शुजात भाई तो उनके बेटे थे, और देयर वर फ्यू अदर स्टूडेंट्स. सो डिड ही हैव एनीबॉडी पर्टिकुलर दैट तुम्हारा रियाज ठीक से नहीं हो रहा है तो तुम पहले कर लो, ऐसा कुछ था, या एवरीबॉडी वुड सिट टुगेदर and practice and he would listen to you? How did that work?
The house was very different. I mean, there was a Riaz room, and every student, apart from doing the household chores, they would get on to do their Riaz. Sometimes Shujat Bhai and all, when Abba got very angry that Riaz nahi ho raha. Shujat Bhai was one of those natural born people. He wasn't into Riaz. He wanted to just read his comics and
That's interesting.
eat and be merry. But he was full of music, and he wanted to do his own things. That was amazing to see how Saji would run and say, "Babu, come on, sit down," and he would find a way. But that's something which you should ask him. But when Abba sometimes got angry, then Shujat Bhai would say, "Okay, chalo, we will sit." And I remember a few days we said, "Okay, we'll do like an all-nighter, puri raat baiठते हैं." We would sit in a room, and I mean, I don't think we ever did the whole night, but whatever we did, a few hours, that was brilliant, because that it gave us a lot of work. So they was very sporadic. And then the other thing is when, for example, Imrat Khasab's family, the whole family came to Saji in Dehradun, and that family's mahal was very different. They are so riazi. That
Acha.
Imrat Khasab and the boys, I mean, they in every room, they are at it, and they are very Riyazi people. So, and naturally that was an eye opener for me. Looking at Nishat Bhai in Calcutta when I was staying there, and he, once asked me, he said, Dharambir Bhai, please sit with me. And the guy sat at 10 in the morning and got up at 6 in the morning, 10 at night, 6 in the morning, just non-stop. And what was it that he was doing the riyaz was just, sargam thousands of times, pura sapat chal raha hai wo. And I'm just sitting there halfway and I'm beginning to doze off and all. But somehow that, to see that this is what riyaz is. My
Absolutely.
Ustad had done 13 hours, they say, of this kind of, chilla kashi, this kind of fervor riyaz. But I didn't enter the scene at that point, but I remember my senior most Guru Bhai, Pandit Arvind Parak ji, he knows a lot more of that phase of Ustad ji, because they're very same age. So and so the point is that entering a family of gharanedar musicians and becoming a student gives you access not only to your guru, but you've got a whole different ladder of, whoever is there is helping. Arvind Bhai, for example, has helped me whenever I used to go as a senior Guru Bhai. He would share his knowledge, and when we lost Abba, then naturally, these kind of things. So I guess that's another important one, because the Guru Shishya Parampara was about entering a family, a gharanedar musicians, where then this kind of thing of helping each other, and at the top of the pyramid was your Khalifa, who naturally was musically more up there.
Dharambir ji, we have Kamal Limdi from Surat in Gujarat, saying hello to you.
Thank you.
We also have Anita Mistry. She said, for those interested to read a great book, The Sixth String of Bilayat Khan by Namita Devidal.
Yes, so that's a beautiful book written by Namita, and worth a read too, if you want to see my Ustad's personality and his character. Apart from music, other stories of his life are equally interesting.
Absolutely.
So don't forget about my questions, though.
No, I'm
Otherwise,
coming.
I'm not able to ask you the question,
Sure.
We're coming to you, Imtiaz. We have Dr. Sanjukta Ghosh with us, joined us, Dharambir ji, from SUAS, South Asian artistic director. And then, do you want to hear Kaviraj a little bit, and then move on to your question, Imtiaz? What do you think?
No, that's fine. It's up to yeah.
I think we'll take this one.
I think a lot of talk so far. Let's hear more music.
Because Kaviraj sings wonderfully. I went to Leeds very recently for a project where Kaviraj was there. Sure. And the first time I heard him, and I said, wow, that was really lovely to hear him.
Yeah. I will ask a complimentary question to my previous question, so it will link up. Let's hear him first.
Okay, sure. So again, we thought, if you don't mind, he would be lovely for him to be sitting with this santoor, and he's trying to bring these two aspects together of playing the santoor and singing.
Very, very nice.
Which is taking back to the Sufi roots of santoor in Kashmir. That's how in Sufi singing, the santoor was used as a platform. And for me, it's a sophisticated surmandal, because the ambience beauty of the sound. So, but today we're just remembering my Ustad. So if you can allow us, so we'll just sing a composition my Ustad ji created in Rag Gavti. And of course, you will see the effect of the sitar in the vocal composition, because it needed that in this.
This was the whole idea of organizing the concerts online, Dharambir ji, because when you are on stage, you only play, you perform, but you don't get a chance to talk, and we don't get a chance to hear all these stories.
Sure.
चंदन फूलवन के डारू हरवा, चंदन फूलवन के डारू हरवा, चंदन फूलवन के डारू हरवा, सुंदर सुरधन सावरिया, बनमा तोरे लागू लागू तोरे बनमा, चंदन फूलवन के डारू चंदन फूलवन के डारू हरवा, जो करमनाथ तुम्हारी हम पर, जो करमनाथ तुम्हारी हम पर, जो जो करमनाथ तुम्हारी हम पर, जो करमनाथ तुम्हारी हम पर, चरण चढ़ावो से दीवाना मरमा, चंदन फूलवन के डारू हरवा, चंदन फूलवन के डारू हरवा, चंदन फूलवन के डारू हरवा, चंदन फूलवन के डारू Nini sa ma ma pa ga ma pa nini sa da da ma ma pa pa ga ma pa ga ma de sa ni sa pa ga ma de sa ni sa pa ga ma de sa ni sa cha da na la ma no ke da
Absolutely beautiful, that is.
Yeah, beautiful indeed. So now my complimentary questions. So I think it's quite interesting because your Guru Bhai Sujat Khanji's son is also singing Sufi songs, and I can see Kaviraj is also singing Sufi songs, and obviously he's specializing more into classical music as well, rather than sitar. But moving on to my previous question, when you came to UK and when you actually set up these beautiful institutions, what is your experience in terms of teaching, and how do you look back? Would you have done it differently? Now you look back, or are you happy what you achieved?
I think the thing is that one, and the second one is when you are in the flow of your life journey.
Yes.
You're just flowing and doing your best.
Yes.
And this is where people like us and Chandra, whoever has been groomed with that passion which the gurus have given us, then we are faced with whatever situations we are faced with. The important thing is that as far as we come from 100% integrity of the art form, because we are so solidly groomed in the art form and the sound, that no matter if I was put against a jazz musician or some other context or whatever, my integrity in my own art form and the work I've done on my instrument will carry me through. I think that was the key thing, that then, according to the circumstances, the new country became, and even if I was teaching a beginner in a primary school, I was aiming that one day that youngster should be able to play like what I have seen. So you are conscious that what kind of work, what kind of paltas, what kind of things do I teach so that I know the target. And I think this is the key. So when, for example, my student who's done so well, very proud of her, Rupa, she came to me as a 7-year-old girl, no music in her family. And she started off, I spotted the talent, and I knew that, that girl was, without even telling her to do a mean, for example, from the Ma Parda to right to the Sa, which is quite a killer even for experienced musicians to do that, the physical aspect of pulling and the pain on the finger. But this age, I saw her doing that, and immediately I said, I can push this girl. She will be, and then naturally she had the musicality, and then we I worked on that. So the point I'm trying to make is that in that way, whatever situations came to us, moving on to the college, I set up a program at Leeds College of Music, again, dealing with writing the modules in a modern context. But I can never forget that while I'm writing the modules, I am not taking the model of the theory books of Indian music as my main basis. Because I'm not coming from that. We are coming from real music. We're coming from, is teaching a row of a rag going to be able to give rag? And the answer is no. So what are the ragangs, and teaching them a gat or a composition? Through that they develop that sense of how the rag moves. How do you then work on creating the tans, which are not based on just scales, but based on the musical phrasing, which we call the ragangs. So the ragang concept, the ragang way of doing it. But as I said, that it's a very contagious sort of thing, because Indian music is a fluid art form. It can't be notated as such. So if I had heard it and I had seen, and I know what on is through a one-to-one minimum of writing, maybe, so that they can remember things. My sort of thinking of doing that. And the other thing is, in particularly my way of working here was that I then realized that I wasn't going to go much far in terms of my career in this country if I don't actually study further. And I went and studied a master's at School of Oriental African Studies. So that gave me capacity to become a lecturer and to relate with the world of, and then all the other fun things I've done, creating arts organizations and all of that. I but the one central thing in that was the passion for music. That was the driver. That's the key in this.
Have you ever been tempted to do some fusion music, for example?
I've done lots of that. Imtiaz, there was a time when I was the key member of Shiva Nova. And then I did a lot of work with some jazz musicians and a lot of other musicians, and a very enriching experience. It really tests you out in your oral capacity to pick up music and adapt to different things. And I think in a modern scenario, every musician should have understanding of what happens in other parts of the music, at least what is the central thinking behind the Western harmony and things like that. Whether you do that or not, I think is something a choice which more work in that. So these are all circumstantial kind of things.
Thank you.
Joy, whatever you have suggested, I think Imran, who's actually working from behind the scene with this, he's trying to do that. So hopefully we will be soon getting to the speaker on the main screen. Sangjukta and Shatarupa, do you have anything you wanted to ask Dharambir ji? Or I know Shatarupa wanted to talk to Kaviraj to know his point of view.
Sure.
Hello, Kaviraj.
But Sangjukta, if you want to ask something as well, please do go ahead. This is an opportunity for us to know all these from Dharambir ji, and it's lovely to hear all these.
Yeah, I definitely have something to ask, but let Shatarupa ask first because she wanted to.
Hello, Kaviraj. I'm a senior disciple of Srimati Chandra Chakraborty. So I was wondering, being a student of music yourself and being brought up in this country, what do you think about Guru Shishya Parampara and what does it mean for you?
So I think my upbringing in music is slightly different to the norm. We had music in the house. I'm born in so lucky to be born into a musical family with parents like mine. I couldn't have asked for anything better. So I'm lucky in that sense. I had those vibrations of music from a very early age, from before I was born even. There's like my father mentions, this contagiousness of music and how you pick up certain aspects, certain musicality characteristics you have from an early age. And being born into a musical family, I think I maybe had slight advantage in that sense. And the learning was in a different sense to the Guru Shishya Parampara. I never necessarily went to live with my guru, although I'm living with my gurus, my parents. I've learned from Ustad Harjinderpal Singh ji on Santur. When he first arrived in the UK, actually lived with us for 6 months. So I had some first-hand experience of that. Of what the Guru Shishya Parampara could be like, although maybe it wasn't as rigorous. I think I was still living at home in my own home, so I had to go to school, and we were allowed to play and things like that. And then with vocal, I I can always just remember singing. If I'm just walking around the house, I'm singing, and any time, I think even without knowing, I'm just always singing. And I had my first start in vocal training from my mother, Srimati Gunwant Kaur.
Right.
And then, because of the organizations that my father had set up, South Asian Arts UK in Leeds, myself and my brothers and so many other youngsters in the UK, in Leeds especially, had access to some of the highest level musicians that were passing through, either passing through on tours, throughout the UK, or they were especially invited for summer schools, for teaching. So, I mean, from a very early age, we had sessions with Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra ji. I remember I was 6 years old. I still remember, quite vividly, and I still remember the Bandish they taught. They played cricket with us, they played football with us, and it's such a different opportunity we have, to connect to musicians like that. In India, I don't think anybody would have a chance like that. This is
I don't think it's there's no fixed anything. This is interesting because the gurus and ustads, they're all different.
Yes.
Yeah.
They are, some are into, my ustad was into pool. He could sit for hours and watch pool, playing and all. So I think we have a lot of these things which are not true, like some mythical kind of things, it's a very mixed. They are all human beings and different.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a question for Kaviraj, complimentary question. Before you ask the question, which
I've never formally learned sitar.
Right.
But again, just being in the house, seeing the instrument, seeing so many of my dad's students play, and actually, my learning on the santoor was also alongside sitar a little bit. I know the technique and the basic techniques and things, but I would never, I'm not
go into it. Yeah, that's okay.
Perform.
As long as you're in.
What Kavi is providing apart from his musical singing and santoor is that he is our savior for instrument repairing and harmonium tuning, whole workshop. Excellent. And thank God, I mean, there's so many for all that.
No,
that's very good to know. Harmonium to you very soon.
Well, I'll take my one as well.
Yeah. So if I can just say, in case there is a gap, then Kaviraj then took, before he went to uni, and then Ajay Chakravarti ji in Calcutta, and stayed in the Shruti 8 years.
No, 8 months.
Sorry,
9 months. I was
9 months. Which it was 8 years.
Yeah, so my experience again. I wasn't necessarily living with my guru when I went. I was actually living in Shruti Nandan in Guruji's institute, so not far from his house. 10-minute walk from SRA. And then I think maybe 3 or 4 days of the week, I would just go in the morning. He would have a class, so many students sitting, and I would just observe for the most part, and then. 1 or 2 sessions, he would then, focus on me, and give me some material to work on, analyze, what Guru Shishya Parampara might be like. But
you've got an amazing voice. You've got an amazing voice.
There's one of the things which is very pertinent to this discussion, if I'm allowed to bring it, was that as parents, what is it that we observed when Kaviraj returned back from India?
Yeah.
That was the most interesting thing, because there is that unseen asana, the feelings that shifted in Kaviraj. We saw that. For example, we haven't really seen our boys touching our feet. Though in my families that was quite common, but then, they grew up here in England, and also that was not happening any of that. But the first thing he did coming back was that he straight head for my feet and my wife's feet and touched this, and immediately we both looked at each other, but we spotted a lot of very subtle changes in that. And I think that is the key when we talk about this parampara. You see, let's not, because the model is clear. You see, Chandra's model, my model is different, Kaviraj's model is different, yeah? But what is the thread which goes in this model is bhakti is a tool, right? Whether your guru teaches you or not teaches you doesn't matter. The point that you are so devoted to the whole, their achievement and their music and all of that, that a humility becomes part of you, and you are in that devotion. There is a certain emotion which we nurture, and that emotion is just love. Why is it that if truly when we get touched by someone's performance, they are playing the same rags, they're playing the same notes, everything, but they move us. It is this aspect in them that is layered onto the music which gives them that thing. So the guru bhakti is a very important mindset which Indian music needs, and will be totally dry if that gets lost.
That is absolutely correct.
I think we heard it over and over again in all our previous sessions as well. Exactly the theme that you just told us. Love.
But the point is that living with your guru, not living with your guru, and having your education, colleges, universities, and all, they can carry on. You can become a doctor, you can become whatever you want to be. But this guru bhakti is something between you and whoever and this is where I would like to draw the attention that what brought me into music as a child was, I remember picking up a book and it said Sangeet is मोक्ष का माध्यम है, संगीत से मोक्ष की प्राप्ति होती है, right? So Sangeet is a path to liberation. And I don't know why, as a child, liberation was something very good or interesting, or something I should, be interested in. I don't know why. I mean, and I've all my life been interested in this phenomenon of moksha. And I still go around looking for, assessing my own relationship to music, to see how is the musical making and all these things we are talking about, the gurus and the relationships and all of that, actually taking me onto my liberation. Yeah, this is the key. This is where I feel that if I am convinced that the design of Indian music basically is a form of yoga. You call it Nad Yoga, you call it whatever you want, but it is a path. If sound becomes your way of becoming part of the bigger reality, which is also sound. So what enticed me was to say that Nad Brahma is the beginning of everything, the Nad, the sound, the vibration. And then there was this mention of Anahat Nad and Ahat Nad, And so what was it that I feel that a musician is aspiring is that by doing the outer Nad, whether it's coming through the voice, whether it's touching the instrument and all that, that you actually homing on this phenomena, because right on the other side of the Nad, the sound, is no sound, the Anahat Nad. Because this heard sound cannot come from just like that. It comes from what you call the silent sound space, which is what we call Shiva, that which is not, but that is the womb of the creation, you know. So the point is that if I look at the yoga traditions now, that people might start their yoga practice from a yoga studio locally and learn some things, and then they find, oh, you know, it's good, it helps me well-being and all, but they you know, have got no clue that this stuff they're doing actually could be something much more. And then they might go to another studio or a senior teacher, and then one day the penny drops that actually I need to go and find an enlightened master yogi, and then I get the contagious element which cannot be passed on without that. You can't get it from a studio, you can't go get it from a school or like that, you know. In that, at that point of life, if you've reached that kind of realization, you would go and spend 1 year in an ashram or whatever time you can. So I think this analogy I'm giving is exactly how someone who treads on the path of musical learning as a Nad yogi who wants to take this path can do that. You know, you learn from wherever it's available, you kind of doing that and all. But once in time in your life when you decided that this is for me, I want that, then we need to look for another yogi. Another yogi, someone who those of us who've actually been with, whether it's Kanand Saab or Malabika ji or my Ustad, they are the ones who've done Riaz and Chilla and totally lost in the music and have reached that very finesse point of the no sound kind of a stage where music becomes medicine, music becomes, you know, they don't do it, they can't have a good day. It's like food, you know. And I think that model is what I love now, that, you know, it doesn't matter. We don't have to go way right from the beginning about this Guru Shishya Parampara and all of that. As far as our integrity, it is 100%. We're teaching with full integrity and all. And then the ones who really come into that, then, you know, they have to go through that regime of, you know, either going to an ashram or living with the Ustad or the. So I think that.
Thank you, Dharambir. This is really, I think, for the students, it's very good for them to hear, you know, you talking about Guru Bhakti and all this parampara. And
Chandra, sorry to cut you there. Another thing I must say that, you know, sometimes we can be very frightening for someone who you know is not going to maybe to take it as a profession. You know, we sometimes are driven as if we want every student of art to become a professional musician. You know, we have cases of I mean, Imtiaz Bhai is one case here, who's a professional you're a professional doctor, isn't it? Medicine. And then there was Buddhadev Das Gupta ji, who was an engineer. You know, we have many, and I don't think there's any problem, because the Sangeet sadhana and your medical profession don't have any issues with each other. In fact, they're very complementary. And it's a choice that it makes better sense that, you know, to do medical work, you know, rather than that. And I think this thing needs to be really taken away, that a sadhana can be taken by anyone, and every level is beautiful. Chandra, you know, you've seen the faces of your students when they're first time able to do a note in tune, you know, and sing in tune, and suddenly you see the joy and, you know, wow, kind of thing. Every stage is beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Shanjukta, before we go to further questions, I think everybody is waiting to hear Kaviraj. What do you say?
I think what I was thinking was कि अभी if Sanyukta you want to ask a question, then हम लोग 1 घंटे का करना है ना, it's already 6.
धर्मवीर जी कोई टाइम नहीं है, मतलब हम लोग बात करने के लिए बैठते हैं तो पूरा रात तो नहीं चलता है, बट लेकिन फिर भी थोड़ा
नहीं, हम लोग सोच
सोचा
रहे
ही
थे
जाता है.
कि मेरे
We don't
उस्ताद
have
जी.
any time limit. No, don't worry. We don't have any time limit here,
ठीक है.
honestly.
No problem. So I was just thinking that if Kavi could sing my Ustad ji's very favorite Bhairavi ka unka jo tha, which you know, he used to love that, and I think it brought home to this message we were just talking about, and you could see that how, you know. But Sanjukta ji, you can ask first, you know.
I have been just hearing you, and firstly, I want to sort of greet you from SOAS. We are in together with this Guru Parampara project with Kalakar as well, and
Oh.
you from SOAS as a SOAS alumni. That would be wonderful to have you in this journey of looking at Guru Parampara from different points. But I'm going to stop here and let the singing continue, because I think it continues with what you were saying, and I will
Sure.
get back later. Thank you.
Okay. I just say that during my SOAS days, my dissertation was on this topic, and I looked at my Ustad's Gharana, Inayat Khan, Imdad Khani Gharana, and in that I was dealing with the two scenarios of the Guru Shishya Parampara and some of the, the things which can also go wrong in this model. In light of, it's again that integrity issue, and the fact that the Maharaja's days, when jobs were with the Maharajas, if your own children were not good enough, teaching an outsider was threatful because they would get the job. So there were all kinds of things, but we're not in that age and time.
We will talk about that, the transitions and everything. तुम हो जगत के दाता, तुम हो जगत के दाता, तुम हो जगत के दाता, रखियो लाज मोरी नाथा, रखियो लाज मोरी नाथा, तुम हो जगत के दाता, तुम हो जगत के, तुम हो जगत के
जगत के दाता तुम हो, जगत के दाता, जगत के दाता तुम हो, तुम जगत के दाता। जो बना लुटाए बैठी, कौन मुख जइयो, जो बना लुटाए बैठी, कौन मुख जइयो, कौन मुख जइयो, कौन मुख जइयो, जो बना लुटाए बैठी, कौन मुख जइयो। हो तुमरे पास आवन का मनवाल जात, तुम हो जगत के दाता, तुम हो जगत के दाता। तुम जगत के दाता।
Brilliant.
क्या बात।
This is just so beautiful, and a lot of our viewers, Virata is saying it's so beautiful. Anita is saying this is brilliant evening with our beloved Guruji and Guru Bhai Kaviraj makes me so happy. Kamal Viji is saying respecting Guru means respecting music or whatever subject you are learning, that only open your mind to the depth of the subject. Everybody is there watching you and listening to you, and I'm so pleased that this is such a lovely evening. We all are enjoying it. Thank you, Dharambir ji. Thank you, Kaviraj.
Thank you.
Sanjukta, over to you.
I think your microphone is muted.
Your microphone is muted, Sanjukta. Yes.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I've been sort of hearing you right from the start, and there are so many questions that I had in mind, and quite frankly, you have with your professorial quality of enunciating the music and the passage of music, you've really answered so many questions that I had in mind. But I also would like to highlight that today is the Earth Day. We are going through a very difficult period, and I always want to know from every artist that you are working with rasa and you're working with ragas. There's a lot of pain, a lot of sorrow, and a lot of misery around. And I just wondered, as an artist, what would you really like to say about what you're thinking and you're experimenting, or any fusion music you have in mind, because you've also worked a lot with fusion music. So, there are lots of questions I also had with fusion and non-Western students and how they are connecting with Guru Parampara traditions. I mean, I had all these questions, but it's too long a chapter. But if you just give me a bit of a feel of, how you connect with the traditional music systems and what you're also, creating through fusions during this time and reflecting this time, that would be great.
I mean, my phase of doing fusion projects and work is almost over. I haven't really been doing much, and I think for my own journey, it's been interesting that having taught a lot of people from different nationalities and the context they were coming, whether they brought the guitars or saxophones or flutes, I just tried to teach them what I knew within the context of Indian music and the oral nature of this music, and how the singing in your mind or singing vocally and playing was integrated into this music. And I think many of my students used to compliment to say, I don't know if I can become an Indian musician, but I feel I'm a better jazz musician because it has opened up my ear. It's given me certain things which I wasn't doing it or paying much attention. And I think this was a beautiful lesson for me to see that how different cultures and delving into different cultures can open us into certain faculties which we might not have thought about. So that was there. And apart from that, there are some students, Jesse Bannister, Giuliano Modorelli, who are out there. They're professional musicians, and they have chosen these musics. Their Guru Shishya relationship seems to be, again, there is probably a cultural something there, that they are very respectful, but they have moved on. They've also started going to Calcutta, started venturing out, making friends with other musicians, and started to explore this music in their own kind of way. So I think that is also important to take in on board, that whoever gives you that initial thing or whatever, end of the day, it's going to be a very personal journey. And if a guru is a successful in giving you the musicality and the insight, then if you do not try and do something which is going to be your own call, whatever it is, then they have failed for me. We cannot just be a carbon copy of those people. We cannot be. Nature has not designed us like that. And we all have our own uniqueness, and recognizing this is very important, because I feel sometimes we fall into this trap that I must play like someone, or I must be like that if I'm going to be successful. And that's such a self-guilt journey, which I believe this is and the biggest example is my Khalifa. You will see Shujat Bhai, when he is not even doing music, his attitude and all that, the silver lining is coming from his father's music and the gharana he is of, but he follows his heart. He plays what his uniqueness is about. And I think that courage and that sort of thing, I always tried to create access for our students here, so that they could be in the company of the great musicians and teachers. And this is a model which I would like to say that that's a very good model, because our people who are learning music here, how else will they ever go and be in the company of these people? You're not living in India, and it's not possible. So this is how, when we created the retreats and summer schools and all that, what Kaviraj said, that happened with so many of my students, that kind of thing kind of happened. I can share one simple instance. When Pandit Rajan Sajan Mishra ji came, and I was always thinking some ideas to how do I do something which will be different or something. And I told them, I said, Rajan Bhai, we're going to do a master class. And he says, Dharambir, tum pata nahi, you always coming up, I don't even know what this master class is. So I said, you just be there, let me sort of, just flow. So I asked my student Jesse Bannister to play. He had learned the Bhimpalasi. So I said, Jesse, 10 minutes, you play the rag on the saxophone. So he played Bhimpalasi, right? And that composition, Ja Ja Re. Um, and I looked at Rajan Bhai and I said, Rajan Bhai, can you just work with him now and transform Bhimpalasi? And he knew immediately, no problem. And the session was such a hit because all of us, including me, we were all listening to the interaction. And the common theme was Bhimpalasi, which all of us knew. So we were learning by observing at Kotha. And I remember myself, Rajan Bhai went this beautiful mean from the Madhyam to the Nikhad, the way he kind of joined these two notes, that in that sense, So, and looking at the times we are in, you said that all I can say is as a musician that music is sound. We're dealing with sound and the vibration and the laws of the sound, particularly when you look at the phenomena of what we call this resonance, sympathetic resonance, which means that if my sitar is resonating, my body will also start to resonate with it. And if the resonance is uniform and very kind of favorite Sufi saints who was a musician. A musician enlightened master is a rare phenomena, very rare phenomenon, and he was one of them. He's the father of Sufi movement in the West. And my Ustad, his father's name was Inayat Khan. So was Hazrat Sufi Inayat Khan. Hazrat Inayat Khan's son's name was Vilayat Khan, and my Ustad's name was Vilayat Khan. Dada Imdad Khan was a great fan of Inayat Khan, Hazrat Sufi Inayat Khan. Because, and the Khan Sahib in his book, which is called The Mysticism of Music and Sound, and he says, music is a quick meditation technique. By long meditation, you are actually purifying your body so that you can become a receptacle of that power, that flow. But the relationship with that ta was that just one ta. That was the power of this stuff, So what I'm saying is that music or which work well.
Yeah, I mean that kind of this thing that you were talking about, how the body is connecting to the music. I mean, I'm glad that you brought that out because that kind of connects with my question as well. That in this situation of lockdown, where we are doing these kind of sessions, where we think that there is some kind of value in this communicating sound and knowledge about sound and how that affects the mind and the body. We, that is also part of your sense of liberation during this period when there is a physical boundary to which we are kind of bounded. So I was, that was one of my thinking.
Yeah. But Shayukta, can I just say that the experiment Princeton did on a few hundred meditators and meditating in a space which was next to a very high crime rate, that the crime rate came down. Not connected, but can you see? So I believe that doing their riyaz and sending out, beautiful riyaz and a few thousand people, I'm sure make a huge difference. That's the difference. I know it's very silent and unseen, but it's there.
But on that,
I have to read a few comments here. We have got Gaurav Majumdar, one of the very, very eminent sitarists watching us from India. Gaurav is going to be with us as well, first week of May. We have Shabaz Bhai.
Yeah, this is we're very looking forward to these two gifts in our family because they're showing great signs of music and dance. And I think it's been lovely, and our other grandchildren as well. Arjun, and Reet.
Yeah, they're all watching you now, Dharambirji. So that's
Okay.
also parampara. They are watching their grandfather talking about Guru
And
Parampara.
giving the from the
Yeah,
session.
And
absolutely.
my other son, Upneet, I must say, he became a disciple of Pandit Sharda Sahai ji, and that's we saw a lot of transformation after that ceremony in him, and he still goes to Sanju Sahai ji, and I can see that the Guru Bhakti element is increasing, and it's so lovely to see that being nurtured. And yeah.
So
Thank you.
if you can give us one final touch of your
Absolutely.
instrument and
I was
connect with your body and your thinking, that would be just the right moment. And
So I thought that I know Kaviraj has already sung Bhairavi. Just to make it a point that how each musician goes through their own personal journeys, and we also have our own backgrounds and whatever we're coming from. So we are also very lucky that we belong to the tradition of Gurbani singing, a very rich tradition, which also is very, very classical based tradition. And I came across a rag which I haven't heard it within the mainstream, and I felt that wow, that was something interesting. And the rag is called Gaudi Bairagan. So the
Acha.
name is so beautiful. So it's a beautiful combination of Bairagi, Bhairav, and Gaudi.
Okay.
So the name they gave was Gaudi Bairagan. So I'll just play a
Wonderful.
few just
Yes.
notes of that. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.
That was just wonderful, Dharambir.
Thank you.
We have Mrs. Jagdeep Kaur, Dharambir's sister, watching with
Yeah.
her family from India.
Yes.
The good celebration of my son Chanchal today, watching his Mamaji. It's
Yes.
Chanchal's birthday.
So we say happy birthday to Chanchal. Happy birthday. I had sent him a message yesterday, and I said, "Oh, I'll send him a double one today again." So that's so nice. Have a great day.
Thank you, Dharambir.
You're
Thank you
welcome.
on behalf of Kalakar from all the audience. It was
Thank you.
such a pleasure to have you as well as Kaviraj with us today.
Thank
And
you.
we would definitely like to have Kaviraj in one of the solo sessions
Suru.
to talk about his journey, his learning.
Yeah.
And thank you very much, Kamalji.
Thank you for having
Thank
us
you.
here.
Thank you.
Thank
Namaste.
you. Namaste.
Thank you to all our viewers. It's I look forward to these sessions nowadays. That it's so much to hear, so much to learn from other gurus, and it's so many things that they are sharing with us which we don't normally hear on normal concept, because there isn't opportunity to talk about our gurus and our teachings, the philosophical aspect of it. So this is such lovely session that's taking place, and I'm really pleased. So thank you, everybody. Stay safe, stay tuned. This coming Saturday, 5 o'clock UK time, we are having eminent Tagore singer from Kolkata, Srimati Shravani Sen. And on Sunday, same time, 5 p.m. UK, we are going to have Ustad Shujat Khan Bhai, the son of legendary Guru Vilayat Khan Sahib. So I'm really looking forward to these sessions. And Shangjukta, thank you.
Thank
You
you.
are one of us, so I don't need to thank you specially. Thank you, Imtiazda. And it's
I just
lovely session.
remember, yeah, before we forget, I mean, my institution, remember, Anandadhara, we are starting a live Facebook appeal for funding for these musicians in Bangladesh, which is happening tomorrow, not tomorrow, on Friday, 5 p.m. UK time and 10 o'clock in the evening in Dhaka. So if you are interested, please join us in our Anandadhara Arts Facebook page, and it will be a different flavor of Bengali music in there. So our first guest would be Mita Haq and Joita, and obviously they're the pioneer in terms of promoting Tagore songs in Bangladesh, and most importantly, hopefully we will raise some money in this hour of need, and looking forward to seeing you all there.
Just a very good initiative, Imtiazda. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just want to quickly sort of add and say that today is Earth Day. So I'm glad that we've also been able to incorporate some of those strands, talking about this dharti and this world, which was brilliant sort of exposition by Dharambir. And this conversation with him is going to continue backdoor as well. And it will feed into the Guru Parampara project, which we are thinking of expanding in different ways. So we will keep you updated on that during these various sessions, because lots of people are beginning to write to us about how artists are now feeling, how they're living, and their desires and aspirations that are being hooked onto this project as well. So I'm glad that we can take this forward in different ways, in different contexts. Something that Dharambir very beautifully and eloquently expressed, that I can't wait to catch him on this. So thank you very much for watching as well.
Thank you all.
Thank you.